which are some of our most successful events, have had people from the steel manufacturing industry. And today we've shaken it up a little bit and got a little bit of a variety, I should say. So I'll tell you a little bit about them, but you'll get a lot out of some of their answers that we'll go through. So Ping is, as I mentioned before, the co-founder and principal lawyer of Level Playing Fields. Ping is a construction lawyer with over 15 years of experience in the sector. She has acted in matters ranging from negotiating contracts for key infrastructure to complex multi-party litigation involving property damage and defects, and she's really good at it. As a registered builder herself, with a background in structural steel and cranes, she brings a unique perspective to resolving construction disputes. Ping is passionate about helping contractors and subcontractors educate themselves on their rights and obligations to improve project outcomes. Welcome, Ping.
Thanks for having me.
Effie Leonidu, also my sister, is, okay, this is typical corporate title, is an enterprise agile thought leader, transaction banking, HQ coaching and global workforce for NAB. She's the head of domain coaching and global workforce in transactional banking and for the National Australia Bank. Effie's a motivational senior leader in agile delivery with more than 2 decades of cross-sector experience. She's recognised for designing simplified, high-performing delivery frameworks for cultivating empowered, autonomous teams that consistently deliver exceptional customer outcomes. As head of domain coaching for transaction banking, Effie leads the coaching capability of global workforce strategy, shaping operation models, talent pipelines and governance that scale across regions. Her transformation programs blend clarity of purpose with disciplined execution, streamlining workflows, embedding lightweight assurances and applying data to improve the cycle time and decision quality. She's obviously the smarter sister, right? And thanks, Effie, for coming. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And Jessica Wiebe is the co-founder of Steel Renew. Jessica is a business owner and leader in the stainless steel restoration industry, co-founding Steel Renew to deliver high-quality, practical solutions for complex environments. Working closely with facility managers, asset owners and operations teams, she specialises in restoring and maintaining critical assets in high-rise and high-risk settings. With a strong background in sales, operations and business leadership, Jessica is known for her clear communication, systems-driven approach and commitment to delivering outcomes. She's also an active contributor to the industry, serving on the board of the Canterbury Bankstown Chamber of Commerce. She's actually flown down from Sydney for this event, so that's pretty cool. And she holds roles with Asta and Lisa as well. Jessica brings a practical perspective on balancing business growth, leadership, and is passionate about helping others create sustainable success in their own terms. Welcome, Jess. So, being that this is a discussion about work-life balance, maybe you could just tell me a little bit about your family situation, just to set the scene. So, Ping?
So I'm married to my husband, who I met on a construction site. We've got a whole YouTube video, so you can watch that one day, about how we met on a construction site. He is my life partner. We've got 2 kids together, and also my business partner. So very chaotic. So whenever I hear work-life balance, haha, it's all together. So my kids are 8 and 5 years old.
Great.
Yep, so thanks, Ping. So I'm divorced with 2 amazing adult children, 25-year-old Helena, who's sitting in the back row there, and my son Jonathan, who's 21. I'm on the tail end of that. I'm on the empty nester. I'm heading into that empty nester type of environment, which is an interesting stage of life to venture into. And you know, been in corporate life for the last 30 years. So you know, work-life balance and the myths around it, which is a lot of myths around it, is something that's really close to my heart, and really pleased to be here to be talking about it.
Thank you. And Jess?
I'm in a similar boat to Ping. So I actually started the business and run it with my husband. We're happily married, believe it or not. And we have a 3.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old boy, and another one on the way.
Oh.
Yes, 4.5 months. Yay. So it is quite chaotic. It all comes down to a lot of organisation, mostly on my part. Really clear communication and a really clear definition of who does what and why we're doing something at all times.
If anyone has an opportunity, I mean, I suggest you connect with all of them on LinkedIn. But every time I see one of Jess's LinkedIn, I have the best giggles. The way she writes some certain situations that happen in her household is great. So, you kind of touched on it, but work-life balance, what does it mean to you personally? Ping?
It's the two most important things in your life, and try to work out how you can fit them both in. So I think it's, if I could go back, the advice I'd give to someone who's starting a business, I feel very much in your position, hearing all those things that you're saying. It was that old passion that I spoke the language of my clients, and I wanted them to see the journey that I went through and not experience the pain that I went through, and that's why I started the business. So I think it's, you have to be conscious that there's only so much time that you can give, and you need to work out a way to have them be harmonious.
Yeah. And what about yourself, Effie?
Yeah, I think that you've touched on a really good point around being intentional, right?
Yes.
So it's about, you know, intentionally understanding the priorities that you have, trying to balance those two really core elements of your life, right? And certain, you know, we go through a journey through life, and some peaks and troughs as part of that, and understanding where you invest more in and what you prioritise more in, and then where you pull back to ensure that, you know, family is focused on or work is focused on.
Yeah, it's like spinning plates, how something's always constantly moving.
Yeah.
But this plate's kind of on fire, but this plate can go on the back burner.
That's right.
And then what do you focus on in that moment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it all is really like an integration in my world in particular. And it just comes down to like clear communication most of all, but also understanding that sometimes in our life, some things will take more of a priority. So say, for example, we've got a personal goal of running a marathon. So for that 3 months period, the running and going to the gym and eating well takes that precedence. So something else has to drop off. Maybe Friday night pizza and movies, or drinks with girlfriends, things like that drop off, but in exchange for something else, because that's that season. And I think being really okay with that is really, really important, because
Don't tell me you're running a marathon. Wow.
I did last year, and then this year I'm not. I'm lucky to walk every day. But yeah, so some things will just take more priority than others, and you've got to be okay with that, because you can't, essentially and sadly, as women, have it all at once. We can, but it's a juggling act. So you've got to be okay with that.
And you need to be able to sustain it, right?
Yeah.
That level of predictability that you develop to try and balance both is really important, because, you know, family life in particular needs predictability. You need to structure, you know, the times that you take your kids to sporting events, which I thank God I'm over. That's over and done with. But mind you, I used to love it, but I used to have to prioritise that and be able to negotiate my time to be able to dedicate that to those needs. So, you know, and providing that sustainability and predictability is really important.
So you kind of touched on it, F, which was my next question, which was how has it changed through your career? So 30 years in the bank, little kids, taking them to sport, to now them having boyfriends and girlfriends and bringing them over so you can cook for them. How is that actually, what's changed?
Yeah.
What was hard? What was easy?
Look, and the biggest, and I think the most critical moment when I realised this, and it's come about since my mother has passed now, was the support mechanism that I had around me to be able to have a career, to be able to grow that and develop that career, not only nationally but globally, and to also have the ability to still be a mum at the same time. Having that network, having that support is it's a village. Yeah, you need to have a village.
Yeah.
It is fundamental to be able to balance that.
And Jess was saying before that for you to come down, because she's got a conference tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
What was the...
3 people take one person's role. A grandfather, a grandmother, and a father doing more. Yeah.
The father actually doing something.
Yeah. Aware of the schedule, aware of who likes what. Yeah.
So, at any point, Ping, in your career, have you felt kind of pressure? You know, being a lawyer, it's long hours, it's hard work, it's, you know, court, you can't change court dates and stuff like that. Have you had to sort of go, well, I have to do that, I have to choose between my career and progressing it, or my family?
I felt when my kids were young, I made a lot of mistakes with things. I started the business when I was pregnant with my first daughter, so it was very chaotic. Some things are just deadlines. So if you have a security payments claim, you have those deadlines, and that must come first. But I think you've got to actively schedule things so that you're not always put in that position, and you don't always have a choice. So sometimes when you're the sole practitioner, when you're first starting out, you're always on the front line, but you've got to move your life intentionally towards a situation where you're not always the person on the front line. Otherwise, your family's not going to wait around forever. So you have to be very intentional. And I look back at those mistakes that I made, and I think, hope people see.
I love mistakes because I find that from mistakes we learn.
Correct.
Is there any mistakes that you'd like to share or that stand out?
My husband always tells this story, so I can't really forget it. So when people say, what was the hardest part? 2 words, people, sleep deprivation. So my first daughter wasn't as chaotic because we were just starting out. But by the time we had our second daughter, we had 3 staff, which is definitely worse because you're trying to manage people and also do your own role. And it got to a point where I was trying to work and then I wasn't sleeping at night because I was trying to feed a little person. And my husband walked in and he heard me from the other room. He's like, oh, our other daughter's crying. And he came in and it was me sitting there crying, having a bit of a meltdown. So I think, but you learn from that. You learn, okay, I pulled too much this way. I've been trying to take on too much stuff. I need to readjust. So that's a good thing about mistakes. You reflect back and you think, okay, that was too far this way. How do I get back to this harmony where it's all working and everyone can be harmonious and we can live our life?
Yeah, that kind of reminded me of something that happened with me when I had my first son. He was a preemie, so I was always on edge and checking up on him. And but one night, I reckon he woke up 8 times, so I kept going up, checking on him, coming back. And the next morning, my husband goes, how good was he last night? He didn't wake up. Really? Okay. So, long hours. Or hours. What sort of hours are you doing? F?
Well, I've always been one to do really long hours. Start early. I like to, get my day started at 6:30, 7 o'clock. Clean out my inbox and be ready for 9 o'clock meetings, which are usually back to back. And then earlier in my career, it was, you know, stay till 6:30, which put a lot of pressure on the family unit, and also, you know, the attentiveness that you could give to your kids, because it was always that needing to prove yourself at a sort of younger stage of your career. And then now at the later stage of my career, I'm still an early starter because I like that, but I balance that with, you know, being out of the office by 4:30, 5 o'clock on the dot, because I've got my Pilates class to go to, right? And I don't compromise on that, because I feel that that's really important for my well-being and my mental stability, to be able to challenge the next day that's going to be exactly as intense and pressured. So depending on the stage and of your career and the level of aspiration that you want and you need to also put in, depends on the balance that you make as well.
And you also have done a lot of travel.
So I used to work when I was with ANZ. I used to work in the Asia Pacific quite regularly, having to balance the coordination of the kids' activities and school and all that was quite challenging. But again, that village, without it, I wouldn't have been able to do that and get that exposure where, you know, enabled me to do other things. But it does build a lot of resilience in your children, I think. I find that they see you being very, you know, active in whatever environment you're in, and you know, delivering, you know. And I used to always talk to my kids about, you know, a lot of the projects I was working on, what countries I was going to and why I was going there, and it built them the resilience to go, okay, mum's doing that and she needs to do that, because then when she comes home we can have the lifestyle that we have, right? And also get them to be aspirational as well.
Yeah, so being a good role model is so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, Jess, with two little kids, two under the age of 3. If he's breaking out in the sweat, just thinking about it. How do you do it? What sort of hours are you doing?
It's really cool. So we really love running our own show. It gives you flexibility, but also the buck stops with you and only you. So it's good and bad, but hubby and I were super duper intentional 8 years ago when we started the business, where I said, look, I reckon, because before marriage, all these things, I said, look, I reckon I can hustle and do X, Y, and Z, build X, Y, and Z client base, whatever. He does the operations and the technical side of things. I said, I reckon I've got probably 5 good years of doing this full time, and then you know it's going to be marriage and kid time. And he goes, yeah, I know. Like, we knew that was our future. So we were very intentional about doing literally 7 days a week of hustling, building the book, building everything, that now, like literally since the firstborn, they go to school, like daycare or a grandma's house for just 3 days a week, and I have them Mondays and Fridays. And that's been a really good thing. But then when I'm with them on the Mondays and Fridays, I fill up their cup. I run, I play, I jump, we cook, we do all the boy things that they want to do, in the sand, in the dirt, the trucks, etc. So they feel really fulfilled. They feel really like, yeah, mum's seen me, filled my cup, and then they kind of let me go, like, to work, you know, and that makes it easier on me because I know I've kind of ticked that box. I kind of don't always tick my box as well or as much, but I do that. But that's kind of the secret of how to do it all. And now when I just do those 3 days, I know quite clearly what I do on those 3 days. It's more of a maintenance kind of role for sales and relationships. If it's travel, it's super well thought out. And I will do emails after 7. I will do things because I have to, but it's clearer and easier to manage now.
I love how you actually have carved that time out and intentionally used it to focus on your family. That's something that if I knew better, or if I had someone to give me more direction back in my early 20 or late 20s, early 30s, I would have been more intentional as well. Where I feel, and you do get guilt I think as a working mum, trying to balance it all, that guilt factor does creep in, and it's about how you manage that and try and go. You know, it was a time and place that happened. You know, trying to manage it can be hard.
Yeah, definitely. I think personal share here, I kind of, I guess in a way, overcompensate or do a bit more intentionally with the kids because I saw my parents literally work 8 days a week. Like, I know that's not possible, but they did that. And then we were kind of like invisible and all that. So I've always said, like when hubby and I said, all right, we'll do this. And I always said, like, intentionally, here's what I want to do. And he goes, great, I'll make it happen on my end. You make it happen on your end. And it sounds like a dream come true and all that, but we really like worked for this. So it does happen. Yeah.
And Ping, what about yourself?
I've had phases where I worked really long hours, and I've had phases where I went home at 4:30. Teresa's like, when was that? But so there were different phases. You go up and down with things, and I always brought the kids along the journey. So our kids will come to the office. They've been to all the crane conferences. My daughter knew the difference between a crane and an excavator when she was 2 years old. She'd be like, "Crane, no, an excavator." So if you try to bring them along with the journey, they don't feel as if you're just always away from them. So they've met everyone. They always want to know the names. If we have new staff, who are they? What are their kids like? And so that's another way. When you have your passion, you try to share it with them, bring them into what you do. I think that's been good.
Yeah, it's so important to have the kids involved in what you're doing, especially if you're running your own business as well. I mean, we sometimes drive past certain buildings and my little one will go, he's not that little anymore, he's taller than me, but he'll go, please don't say it, I know you did that building, please don't say it. Everyone has told us a million times now, you know. But it's good that they notice and they know and they're interested, and it's not about them following in your footsteps, but they're picking up skills along the way. Okay, got a few men in the room, and it's not a dig at men, but it's a question that needs to be asked. Do you think that men have different work-life challenges than what we do?
You know, I'll answer that in terms of, because our workplace everyone has youngish kids, and we've got men and women who do, I think the parenting these days is not done by just the women. We have a lot of men in our office who do the pickups. One of the guys does all the pickups, so he actually chose to leave his old workplace and come and work with us because his kid is 2 minutes down the road. So I think there's a big change with men.
Yeah.
Men are picking up and becoming partners. My husband does most of the drop-offs and pickups because the times let him sleep in, but uses an excuse because he's dropping off the kids, I believe. That's unfair. So I think I find that the two, I do a lot of events for women in construction, try to encourage women in construction. And I find for the younger women, it's the believing they have a place in the industry, that because they don't look like the men in the high vis and all that, it's believing they could be project managers and not just contract administrators or admin in the office. And then once you get to that motherhood stage, it's that flexibility to be able to do what you want to do. So,
yeah, and I think it's really, you know, the workplace has evolved a lot. Probably when I was first had Helena, the idea of working from home was a novice concept. I was lucky enough though that ANZ was quite progressive, and I used to take my Wednesday of working from home, and that was the day that I would do a lot of the activities with her in particular. And then now seeing how much it's shifted quite substantially in the current workplace, where there's so much flexibility and there's so much in a lot of, in our industry anyway, it's quite an accepted work environment. But there is still a little bit of an element of you know, if you're not visible in the office, you're not performing as hard as everyone else. But where we know there's, you know, data and statistics out there that, you know, the productivity level when you're working from home is actually quite substantial. So it's like, you know, workforce has really evolved, and also leaders have evolved as well in their thinking around that.
Yeah, Jess, what are your thoughts on that?
I think men have different expectations, like that are placed upon them to work. They're allowed to, I guess, work longer hours. I think this is coming from a very cultural Lebanese, ethnic family kind of background, right? My husband is allowed, or it's appropriate for him to, let's say, work 12-hour days, or work past 4 o'clock, for example. But then if I pick up the kids and I just need to just quickly do something for an hour, I can't do that at 4 o'clock. Like, auntie, you have to be with the children. What's wrong with you? Like, no, you can't. I can't help you now. You can do that after 7. You can do that after 8 when they're asleep. It's like, I don't want to do it then. Like, it's not as, I guess, acceptable. It's like, well, couldn't you have done that at 2 o'clock when they were still at school? So it's just more acceptable for men.
So I think it really depends on the relationship. It depends on the person. It depends also on what their role is. I mean, I know with us, for many years, we shared the drop-off pickup, and it got really chaotic. Like, you know, one day here, one day there, depends who had a meeting and whatever. And one day I said to him, I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. I just can't do this anymore. And Charm's nodding because she knows. And I said, one person does drop off, one person does pick up, and we work our days out. And then for the odd occasion, we can change that. And seriously, I felt like I had my life back because I wasn't always on edge. I knew that I did all the drop-offs, he did all the pickups, which was also great because he picked up, went home and started dinner. Yeah, there was a method. So, so we talked a little bit about family and support, and Effie mentioned our mum. Our mum was instrumental. There is no way that I could have built the business that I have without my mum, and that's really important. But is there, you know, some people don't have their family members around. Is there other people that you tap into that are a good support?
So my husband, his parents are traditional Croatian, and you would think that they would be really expect the woman to do all those things, but they actually really do the opposite. They support me with everything. So all the time, we move close to them, and they will, oh, but this is your sick grandchild, good luck, and go away. So, and I think the support means more than if you can get paid help. So obviously, the default cleaning and domestic duties falls to women. You never realise until you have a kid and suddenly you're supposed to do domestic things.
Yeah.
So I'm terrible at all this stuff. But apart from paid help, I think family does probably the most.
And I think it's really good to also not only, you know, people that some people don't have family and they don't have, or they do, but it's not close in the vicinity. You know, having a mentor or having a close friend or having a network of support, I think is really
School mums, other school mums.
Other school mums.
Hey, I'm running late. Or I'm actually in a meeting. I totally forgot that my kid's still at school, and I've done that before. Can you just wait with him or drop him off home? And knowing that you've got people to trust is so important.
You need the WhatsApp group straight away.
Yes.
As soon as you start school.
Yeah, that's right. So, Effie, being at ANZ at NAB, which is, you know, corporate, you know, they're leaders in a lot of these things. And I remember you had paid parental help, you know, support, leave when we were...
Not as much as they do today, but yeah.
But you had a lot more. You could have, you took a career break twice.
Twice,
there was a lot offered to you. What's made a really big difference for you?
I think the most fundamental thing is having a leader that, and I must admit it's been mainly male leaders that actually support that flexibility. Understand the stage of your life you're in and the needs that you have, and being able to accommodate for that. I think, and having that level of empathy that you generally would think female leaders would have, right? In the corporate environment, female leaders are quite on the other end. Not all of them. I'm not going to be that crude, but a great majority, because it is a really difficult industry to break that glass ceiling and get to an executive level or get to a group executive level, because the roles are so limited, right? So they need to be very cutthroat, and they need to be very very intentional of how they manage their people and that. But having a leader that is, understands your time of your life, you need to take that career break, or you need to leave at 3:30 for whatever it may be, and having that flexibility has been critical for me.
Yeah. And Ping, we were just talking before about, hey, this is my practice manager, and you were really excited that that's actually changed the way you manage your business. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, okay, that's great. Yes, so Teresa just started this year at the firm. At the beginning, you don't really have the budget. You're quite small. You're trying to grow, and so you're doing everything yourself. As you start getting bigger, it gets worse, because you're doing the lawyer role, then you're running a few people, and you're doing all the books, and you're doing everything yourself. But then we've managed over time to hire people to do certain functions instead of me doing 5 people's role. So I think a small business gives you the flexibility, and I think when you talk about work-life balance, more than work from home, it's actually flexibility. Because a lot of people enjoy going into the office, and they like to have that separation between, I finish off work, I'm driving home, I start to go into family mode, and so I think that's been really good. Teresa also has a young family as well. Her kids are similar age to our kids, so I think it's in a small business you have that ability to have those conversations about how can we give our staff or our people that ability to be people, but also make sure that the business has the needs fulfilled as well.
Yeah. And Jess, we did a session a couple of weeks ago where we talked about the default diary, and then when we caught up again, you showed me. Do you want to explain that to everybody and what difference that has made for you?
Yeah, so I had home and kids really, really organised, but not work. And I just didn't do work as well and as much. And then when I work, it's a bit of glam to do work. And some days are tracky days. Doing things, you just can fall into the default of, I'll just be at home today, turn to the next day. It's, I don't need to get dressed up. It's okay, it's already Thursday. My working week's done. So we're sharing that with Maria, and a lot of it was, okay, how do I kind of pull my finger out now and just get my act together again? Because it just happens quite easily. And it was just a matter of prioritising again the work bucket. So I was also a little bit overwhelmed to do a lot of association work, and everything was pulling me in just different directions at once. So a lot of it was like, okay, understanding that X, Y, and Z association only gets looked at Wednesday 8 till 10 a.m. So any email or any to-do list item, I would just simply log it and only action it Wednesday 8 till 10. And Wednesday is my home day, for example. And then Thursday was the expected be out fancy, do my kind of maintenance sales role thing that I do. And that really was just a game changer of just compartmentalizing everything. Yeah, and seeing it from like a holistic view, and just taking out like, oh, I might do one today and then one tomorrow. It's like, oh, it didn't really work like that.
So that discipline to set aside. We had a productivity coaches, people come in, and they were really, you need to block out your whole calendar of plan things, because you get pulled into low priority things.
Yeah, that's something that I live by, and I train all my staff to have a default diary. And things change, but it's there, you just move it, right? So at least you know within the week or within the fortnight it gets done. Yeah, and it is a game changer. So we talked a little bit about leaders and, you know, having great leaders, but Pin, you are a leader. So what do you think you do for your team that you said a lot of them have young families in a similar boat as yourself to support their work-life balance?
I think as a leader, your top priority still needs to be excellence. Everyone can stand by wanting to be the best in their field. And obviously you want flexibility in all those things, but first and foremost, you have to love what you do. You have to love it so much that you want to be the best. And the best doesn't always mean, it's not necessarily one thing, knowing all the law, although obviously it's great to know all the law. It's that combination of what makes you be able to help a client the most. It's the communication skills, it's all those things. So you have to definitely display excellence and expect excellence. And then you start to build the other things. How do we make sure that people can be people around that? But I think as a leader, you have to have that excellence in your field and that desire to be the best in that thing that you love. There's a reason why you're doing what you do.
And I think you touched on it about them being themselves, right? So allowing your team and your broader workforce to bring themselves to the workplace and show up and allow that level of diversity, the level of different performance levels and support them through that and understand a little bit about them. And that's what we work on a lot. Like I think it's really, especially with my team, I know their life. I know about them. I'm interested to know about them. So then I can help them balance their work life. I've got a First Nations team member from Perth, and she's heavily involved in our First Nation activities at work. So I give her a lot of that flexibility to be able to do that because it's really meaningful for her, and she's one of my top performers, right? And I advocate for it even more because she just gives more back to me because I allow her to be herself. So I think that's really important as well as leaders as well.
Yeah, knowing your staff and knowing a little bit about them. It doesn't mean you need to hang out with them on the weekends, but knowing about them, taking interest in their personal life. And I find that doing that, you also, when they've got a problem, they'll come and tell you rather than them trying to deal with it and maybe not performing. Or if they're not performing, you kind of get it, you know that there's something going on. So that's so
and I think also it's really important because I work with we've got teams in India and I've got teams in Vietnam. Understanding those cultural differences is really important. I had one of my staff in Vietnam call me on the way here, and the Vietnamese are very hierarchical and they're quite timid in interrupting the leader and being attentive to that I think is really important because they get the response immediately and then they immediately be able to solve what needs to be solved. So those cultural nuances need to be understood.
True. So Jess, do you have any advice that you can give our guests today about anyone that's starting their career, or like someone like Jamie that's starting a new business, and potentially will grow the business, grow her team, grow her family? What advice could you give her?
Be really intentional with what you do and where you want to go. With hubby, we always had that kind of like North Star, and it was really clear that it would be like, okay, we're going this way, we're going this way. Okay, now we're going that way, but okay, let's get back on track together, or just something like that, but always having that North Star, like make that clear about where you want to go. And it's okay if that changes, but you'll have like a rough outline that you can always keep working towards. But intentionality is really, really important. And another thing I always say to everyone is I'm actually the same person at work as I am at home. My kids don't see any different, our workers don't see any different, my clients, It's just kind of, I am who I am and I'm happy about that, and like that's kind of it. I'm confident to do that though, not everyone is, but I think not having different faces or personalities can help you more easily be neutral and blended and happier in situations because it's not fake, if that makes sense.
That's how I felt about the construction industry. Because I started out as a lawyer and I worked at a big accounting firm. And I didn't necessarily feel fake, but I always just felt like, you had to put on your game face and be a certain thing. But then when I was on the construction side, it was just talking to people and engaging. So I think wherever your place is where you feel you can be yourself is where you're supposed to be.
Any other words of wisdom?
I just want the youngsters in the room, be kind to yourself. Yeah, you will fail. It is natural. You must fail, but fail and learn, and try and ensure that you put mechanisms in place that that doesn't happen again. And don't beat yourself up about it, because life it's long and careers are long, and you always, whatever stage of your career you're in, you will find challenges, right? And you'll find areas where you come up against some brick walls that you sometimes can't get through, and that's okay. You always learn to navigate around that. So yeah, be kind to yourself.
What about you, Pig? Any words of wisdom?
I would say find people, specialists that can help you guide your business when you're ready. I think I spent a lot of time trying to make the business better, and then once I had key people, we have a fractional CFO, people like that. It doesn't always have to be expensive. It can be consultants. They can really help you. You don't need to learn all the lessons yourself. Like, obviously there's some things you just got to get out there and do stuff, but there are people out there that have learned those lessons, and you can just engage them and they can fast track you instead of all that time.
One of the biggest bits of advice that I've taken from someone that I just bumped into and we really connected, and he ended up being a mentor, was employ people that are smarter than you. Always. Right? And I sometimes look around my office and I go, engineer, arts degree. That's okay, right? Having those people that can add value to your business and add value to your role is so important. Okay, one thing that somebody could have told you about managing work-life balance, or it's something in your career that has stuck with you.
You can have it all, but not all at once.
I like that.
Yeah. Similar to what we were all saying before about like having people that you can look up to and everything like that. I always would find like mentors or people that I could relate to, and I often struggled because I would see that there was no one like me, like who valued home and work and could somehow have this flexibility and all this loveliness, that I just was like, there's no one like me. So then instead I was like, okay, I will be that person. As to if other people were to look at, what would they want to look at? So that's why Maria was saying I do my posting and things on LinkedIn. But I really think, to get back to the point, a lot of it just comes down to like hard work and just really knowing where you want to go, and then just only making the moves that get you in that spot, ultimately.
It's the resilience that you really believe that you want to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So belief, intention.
Yeah, and you can't be what you can't see.
Support.
You can't have it all. You can have it all, but not all at once, and just staying in tune with mentors.
Slow down, all these catchphrases, we've got to get them.
Yeah, just staying in touch with people like that have that vision that you go, okay, I want to strive to be like that. Or I want to work harder to have that as like kind of the vision.
Yeah, surround yourself with people.
I think it's really, that's right. I think it's really important to align yourself with either leaders or mentors or network groups that got the same values as you, right? And if that value alignment then helps you to expedite whatever you need.
Yeah, and that's why our mentoring program is so important. We find that matching people up from the industry, and we've got some people in the room that have been mentors and a couple of mentees as well, it really makes huge change, and it also builds a connection and a relationship that perhaps you wouldn't have ever had before. So that's really important. Okay, we're going to do a little quiz. So, truth or myth? And we'll go ping and across, and then we'll ask all questions. Work-life balance means giving equal time to work and life.
Oh, it's definitely a myth.
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 Yeah.
You can have it all at the same time.
Myth.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Setting boundaries makes you look less committed at work.
Myth. No, I think it's really important to set boundaries. Yeah.
Myth.
Flexible working arrangements reduce productivity.
Myth.
That's definitely a myth. I think there's also studies about
Except for me, because I don't work from home, because I end up putting a load of washing on, cleaning Costa's room. Asking for help is a sign of weakness.
Myth.
That's definitely a myth.
Myth.
Burnout is just part of working in a heavy industry.
That's a myth.
Myth.
Yeah, it's a myth.
Heavy industry.
Myth.
Game. It's a myth anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Career success requires personal sacrifice.
Truth.
I think too, yeah.
Yeah,
You do,
I
you do
definitely
various
think
phases.
you need to sacrifice, but it doesn't mean you need to not be in tune with what you're sacrificing with.
You don't need to sacrifice all the time.
No.
It might just be at this point in time.
Yeah.
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 Clearly, yeah.
Thank you. That was great. Any questions? Any burning questions? I know we covered a lot.
I also just want to say thank you. It's so nice for you guys to so openly talk about your experiences, particularly for people who are maybe at the beginning of the journey rather than in the middle or
Hopefully the end. I'm coming.
No more babies?
No more babies.
I'm saying no more babies.
Last one.
kind of, yeah, as you're saying, like it's, I think you were saying that there's not a lot of role models, and particularly for me growing from those, we were basically all of the girls were just told, of course you can have it all, of course you can, and you kind of get to the other side and you're like, actually, so it's really refreshing to hear how honest you are about how much you've had to sacrifice and what you've had to move around and how you've done it. So thanks.
And you know, I think you starting out, you know, in a business, it's quite. I was taking some notes. Quite, you know, really, it's left field, right? Like it's not something that you would normally think about, right? At all. And it's such a niche type of industry. Surrounding yourself with, you know, mentors and support group will really help expedite what your North Star will look like.
100%.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I wish I knew it years ago when I was going through issues.
Well, thank you, because I can take it now and put it in my book.
Any other questions?
Kind of what I heard quite a lot was you reflecting how you thought your balance was going based on how your kids were feeling. And I think that's what a lot of us do as women. We gauge whether we're doing well or not based on how well the people around us, if we don't have kids, are, what impact we're having on them, and that's probably a natural thing. What I wanted to know is how Helen feels about growing up in, you know, with your children.
Well, you can ask it.
Look,
Look,
it was fascinating to
I can tell you my side of the story, but then she can tell you hers.
It was fascinating to hear you tell your stories, knowing that your daughter is sitting right here.
Yeah.
And the challenges of, you know, needing to travel overseas and the guilt you feel in doing that, but then now pages.
Yeah.
You know, reflecting on that.
Look, yeah, I had a lot of guilt. I'm going to be completely and openly honest with you. you know, not at the time, because I was really aspirational and I really wanted my career to expedite at a really fast pace. But reflecting now later on, you know, when I got into my 40s, I missed out on a lot, right? My mum used to take her dancing, my mum used to take her to drama class, my mum used to take her swimming, and she really enjoyed that early age, which I miss quite a bit of. And then, but I also gave her a lot. I gave her, well, she started travelling at 2.5 or 3.5. You know, we used to travel on a yearly basis. She's you know, experienced things that a lot of children wouldn't have experienced up into her teens, right? So it was, yeah, the guilt's always there, but I've learnt now to go, you know what, I gave her other stuff that she's been able to grow into and become a beautiful, holistic adult who's, you know, got her own career now. Yeah.
Helena?
Yeah. Would you like a response?
Yes, please.
Yeah, definitely. So at that time, it was really cool to know that my mum was going overseas and she was working and she was, it was definitely not an industry that I was going to go into, but just knowing about the project she was working on, I remember talking about Fiji and I think they were putting ATMs in there or something, and I was like, that's so cool, like, she gets to go there. My one complaint is that I didn't get to go with her. So that's all I've got to say about that. But no, knowing that she was working so hard, and I'm like hearing her now talking about all of her feelings afterwards about it, I just, like, of course, you know, you want your mum to be there for everything, but she was there for me then in other ways, and she's here for me now in present ways, like physically as well as emotionally. So I think you did a really good job.
I can't wait to hear from my kids too one day.
I did a crane conference presentation at the national conference in front of all these people, and I asked my daughters afterwards, what did you think? And then my daughter was like, that was boring, Mum.
How humbling.
Crushed, yeah. But they'll remember.
They will. Yeah, there's
They'll-
photos and they remember all of it.
Oh, yeah,
they
they
will.
will.
Yeah. They're just in that moment, they're like, I was bored. I finished my colouring and I got bored.
My eldest is working with us 3 days a week while he's at uni, and someone said something to him about doing a takeoff of a job, and he goes, "Oh, I did my first takeoff when I was 8." And I was like, "Yeah, you did, because that was the only way to entertain you." So, you know, they're picking up skills from us that they probably wouldn't have if we didn't put them in those situations. So, all right. Any other questions before we finish up? No. Okay. Thank you.